The moment I pushed open the door to the tailor's shop, I saw him. Leo, the new assistant from the hospital, was standing there looking pleased with himself in a very sharp suit. His hand was resting on the shoulder of the woman kneeling in front of him, who was busy adjusting his pant leg. Even from behind, I knew exactly who she was. It was Sarah, my girlfriend of 7 years, and she was wearing the exact beige blouse I had pulled from our closet for her this morning. Just a few hours ago, I had asked if she was free later, but she rushed to give me a quick peck on the cheek, her voice full of apology. "Alex, can we do it another day? An emergency surgery just got scheduled." As a fellow doctor, I completely understood the pressure and just told her to hurry to the hospital. It seems, however, that the emergency squeezed in between us wasn't a patient, but the ever-smiling Leo. He clearly saw me standing in the doorway, and a smirk played on his lips, his entire expression oozing with a sense of triumph. No one at the hospital knew about my relationship with Sarah. About 2 weeks ago, Leo had accidentally seen a photo of us together in my phone's gallery while I was scrolling. During a break, he came over to chat, saying, "I was wondering what kind of woman could ever be good enough for Dr. Mason. Now I get it." Then he added, "If I could find a woman who was even half as good to me as Dr. Reed is to you, I'd die a happy man." At the time, I just brushed it off as awkward pleasantry and changed the subject, but I was suspicious. I had no idea where he got the impression she was so good to me. A couple of days later, an offhand joke from one of the department nurses made me realize something was up. "That new guy Leo calls every other woman ma'am, but he calls Sarah Reed Sarah. It's a small difference, but you get the picture." I largely blame myself for not digging deeper into the matter, as my failure to investigate is how I ended up in this deeply humiliating mess. "All right, let me see." Sarah clapped her hands together and stood up, turning to the side just as our eyes met. She froze for only a second, her thin lips pressing into a firm line, but her expression was otherwise perfectly calm, as if she'd long expected this very day would come. Leo glanced at her, his smile unwavering, and reached out to take her arm. "What a coincidence, Dr. Mason." A coincidence. I remember him asking me not long ago when I planned to get married, and he even recommended this specific shop to me. I had secretly ordered the suit because, just last week, I'd found a ring box in the pocket of Sarah's trench coat. I wanted to surprise her, to let her know that I was ready, just as I thought she was. It turns out I wasn't the one she was planning to marry. A sharp, sudden pain hit my chest, so intense I had to dig my nails into my palm just to keep my composure right there in the shop. But Leo suddenly broke the silence with a grin. "Dr. Mason, want to be my best man?" As the words left his mouth, Sarah looked at me, her brow slightly furrowed. Before I could even process the question, she spoke in a low, flat tone. "Dr. Mason is way too busy. Why would he have time for that? Stop joking." Her voice held a hint of resentment, and it sent another pang through my chest. From our time in med school to our careers at the hospital, our 7 years together had been defined by work. Dates that normal couples enjoyed were constantly replaced by emergency surgeries on both our ends. When I received a promotion 6 months ago, Sarah seemed to hold a grudge about it. She became even more buried in her work, focusing on writing papers and taking on high-risk surgeries, one after another. Back in school, we were always each other's toughest competition, and I knew how much she hated losing. The last time her parents called to push us about marriage, she'd said she was too swamped with work to even think about it. So when I found that ring box in her coat, I thought she had been planning something secretly, a way to move us forward. I was moved for the longest time, and I immediately ordered my own suit, planning to surprise her on our upcoming 7th anniversary. Seeing that I wasn't saying anything, Leo prompted me again. Dr. Mason? He glanced at her, then back at me. Dr. Mason, it's a deal then. You can be my best man. Think of it as sharing in our good fortune. I shook my head. Can't do it. I'm in mourning. Sarah smirked as she watched me, and of course she knew perfectly well that both my parents were alive and well. I gave a cold laugh. My fiancé just died, I said flatly. The body's not even cold yet. Sarah's face finally fell, her lips pressing tightly together. The tailor, beaming, came out from the back holding my suit. He heard my words and froze, completely dumbfounded. This was probably the biggest crisis of his professional career. He looked at me hesitantly and asked, Would you like to try it on? I just shook my head. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sarah staring at the fine fabric peeking out of the garment bag. I remembered the year we graduated from med school, when she pointed to a wedding dress in a shop window and asked me when I was going to marry her. Tomorrow, I had teased. The light that flashed in her eyes was like a star, illuminating the darkest night, but it faded just as quickly. Alex, I don't want you to have to settle. I want to give you everything that other people have. Both of her parents had battled cancer, and the resulting medical bills had buried her family in debt. The weight on her shoulders was immense, and it wasn't the right time to talk about marriage. Later, when we interviewed at the hospital together, the chief of medicine, Dr. Shaw, asked her offhandedly, "Young lady, do you have a boyfriend?" She answered without a moment's hesitation, "No, I'm single." Standing right next to her, I was stunned into silence, but she explained it to me afterward. Dr. Shaw is looking to mentor a new doctor. I just didn't want him to worry that I'd be too distracted by a relationship to focus on my work. Even though it left a bad taste in my mouth, I didn't say anything more. She had her reasons and her worries, and I wanted to try to be more understanding. Maybe there was a reason not to go public at first, but later it just seemed like it was never necessary. Every time I brought it up, she would just smile and kiss my forehead. We'll send them invitations when we get married. If we go public now, we'll just get bombarded with questions. She hated trouble. I could only console myself that she just didn't want people prying into her private life. She used to blow dry my hair, eat fast food with me, and whisper, "Just a little longer and I'll marry you," whenever we parted at an intersection. She hadn't said that since about 2 weeks ago, when she'd suddenly taken back her salary card, which I had been keeping for her. Now I knew what big thing she had to take care of. It was the biggest thing in life. My fiancé was marrying someone else, and I wasn't even worth telling. I walked out of the shop with the suit. When I got to the crosswalk, I looked back, but Sarah hadn't followed me. Our last text exchange was from days ago. I had asked what time she'd be home, and she'd replied with 2 words. Busy. When I clicked on her profile, there was just a solid line across her social feed. She had blocked me at some point. I called the restaurant to cancel our anniversary reservation, threw the suit in the back of my car, and rushed back to work. My department head, Dr. Patel, was a little surprised to see me. "You pulled several all-nighters just to get a day off, and you're back after half a day?" Seeing the look on my face, he asked if something was wrong. Explaining that my secret girlfriend of 7 years had just gotten engaged to someone else was far too complicated, so I just said I hadn't slept well. He then pulled me aside excitedly. "Well, in that case, let's get the gossip." The one name I didn't want to hear was, of course, the first one to come up. Dr. Patel leaned in conspiratorially. "Sarah Reed from cardiology is hooking up with that young assistant in her department, Leo. They've been caught together several times, holed up in her office for half the day. The kid comes out adjusting his clothes. They've got some real nerve." He looked me up and down, a disappointed look on his face. "I was even thinking about setting you two up. Classmates, colleagues, you know each other inside and out. What was Sarah thinking?" I couldn't manage a smile. Maybe we just weren't a good match. Dr. Patel added that Leo had been saying he wanted to marry a female doctor ever since he started at the hospital. Someone in the hospital even made a list, betting on which unlucky person would fall for it. You have no idea how hard it is to get a job at our hospital, do you? For him to get in, right after graduation, I heard he has a powerful backer. That reminded me of the nurses in my department, who always snickered whenever they mentioned him. "We've never seen him work a night shift. Having a board member in your corner is a whole different world." Sarah must have heard those rumors too. When I got home after work, all of her things were gone. A key to the apartment was left on the table, with a note tucked underneath it. The handwriting, the same one that had copied notes for me in school and written me love letters, was still neat. Deep feelings can't withstand the test of time. I'm sorry. 7 years of my life, dismissed with a single, cold sentence. I scrolled through a long list of missed calls on my phone and randomly dialed one back. The other end picked up immediately. "That overseas exchange program you mentioned last time," I said. "I want to go." The person on the other end said, "Great, great," but I didn't say another word and just hung up. I figured Sarah's recent surge of ambition and her sudden rush to marry Leo were probably all for this. For months, there had been rumors that the hospital was partnering with a top-tier overseas research institute and would send one person for an exchange program. It was a huge opportunity. Not only would your career skyrocket upon return, but the vacant vice president spot was reportedly being held for that person. Looking down at Leo's post on his social feed, I felt a lot better. The caption read, "Perfectly captures the day." The accompanying picture was of 2 clasped hands. I recognized the slender, pale one. A few days later, I came out of surgery and saw bags of wedding candy. Leo looked like he had been waiting for me for a long time. He rushed over, beaming with self-satisfaction. "Dr. Mason, I brought you this candy myself. You can't refuse." I took off my coat and glanced at him. "There's no one else around, Leo. Why are you putting on an act? Do I even know you?" His smile froze instantly, and his eyes turned cold. "The one who isn't loved is the third wheel, Dr. Mason. I actually feel sorry for you. She never once admitted to your relationship, but the moment I asked, she made it official. You can't miss the difference between being loved and not, can you?" I pulled out a chair, sat down, and smiled. Why would I regret losing someone who could be so easily stolen? As for love, that's your business. I hope you two are stuck with each other for life. His face paled. Before we were married, she was free to choose someone more suitable. If you got dumped, maybe you should think about where you fall short. My smile deepened without me realizing it. Thanks for the advice. I won't be at the wedding. We're not friends, so I'll save the money on a gift. I gestured for him to leave. The fact that I didn't slap him was a testament to my self-control. They must have been in a hurry to announce their relationship. The whole hospital received invitations, and wedding candy, otherwise, my phone wouldn't have been ringing off the hook. Someone was angry on my behalf, because that afternoon, a new notice appeared on the hospital's bulletin board. The candidate for the overseas exchange program had been selected. My photo was posted right there. It was one Sarah had taken of me years ago. Unable to refuse Dr. Patel's enthusiasm, our entire team went to a nearby restaurant to celebrate. After a few drinks, my colleagues' tongues loosened. "You should have seen the look on Sarah Reed's face," one of them said. She just stood in front of the bulletin board for half an hour, completely devastated. That'll show her. Cardiology for the win! I told you could do it, Dr. Mason. Our teetotaler department head, Dr. Patel, was already tipsy. I told you to go for it, but you wouldn't listen. At a private hospital like this, you have to fight for things. Those last few surgeries you did were flawless. The hospital leadership isn't blind. Someone was already raising a glass, toasting to my future promotion to vice president. A cold snort came from behind me. Celebrating a little early, aren't we? I turned around. It was Leo, with Sarah on his arm. People from her department were with them. Sarah's face was impassive. She casually picked up an empty glass from a tray and filled it with wine. "When do you leave?" she asked, her voice light. "Will you have time for my wedding banquet first?" Her sarcastic tone was deafening. I turned to face her completely. "It's not set yet, but I won't have time. I'm busy." But she didn't leave. She leaned in, her voice a near whisper. "Alex, I never thought you'd be the one to stab me in the back." Then she straightened up instantly, her face a mask of pleasantness for everyone else to see. "Dr. Mason is certainly very capable." Her colleagues filed into the private room next to ours. As the door closed, Leo shot me a venomous glare. Of course, I knew how furious Sarah was. I had never been on her list of competitors for this program. Her rivals were a few other candidates. She knew I would never compete with her. After dinner, we were dragged to karaoke. It was a rare chance for everyone to unwind, and they wanted to make the most of it. It was past midnight when I finally got home. The hallway light flickered on. Sarah was slumped against my door, looking up at me with exhausted eyes. "Alex, will you please give it up?" I walked over, my face cold. "Move." As I unlocked the door, she grabbed my hand, her voice filled with sorrow. "Can we please talk?" The frustration that had been building all day finally erupted. I leaned against the wall and looked at her. "Sarah, you ended our 7-year relationship with a single note. What is there to talk about now?" She paused, her head bowed. "Alex, I know I wronged you, but I really don't want to miss this opportunity." "Did you rush to marry him because you heard he had a board member backing him?" I asked. "A direct line, to the top, which would make the training program a sure thing, right?" Her brow furrowed, and a flicker of shame crossed her face. "That's not all of it." She said that at first, she just felt she should look out for the new guy. But things gradually got out of hand. "He's different from you, Alex. I can relax around him. He always looks at me with this adoring expression. But with you, the longer we were together, the more I felt like I didn't deserve you. I was exhausted trying to catch up, but you would always effortlessly surpass me." I was speechless. I never imagined we had drifted so far apart that this was the resentment she held against me. I had to take a deep breath to keep from shaking. "Sarah, whether it's my work or my relationships, I always give my all. I always thought we were the same. I never imagined you thought of it this way." I almost felt it would have been more honest if she'd just admitted she got with him for his connections. I never expected this, that one day my own effort would become my original sin. She sighed, looking at me intently. "In the end, I'm the one who doesn't deserve you. It's my problem." After a moment of silence, she stepped closer, her voice pleading. "Can you go to the hospital tomorrow and officially withdraw? If you withdraw, I'll have a real shot. You once said you would withdraw for me, remember?" Back then, I had smiled and said if it were me, I'd definitely give it up. I couldn't help but let out a cold snort. "You said it yourself. That was back then. Back then I loved you. Now, do you even deserve it?" She wouldn't give up and tried to follow me inside. I held up my hand. "Do I need to call Leo to come pick you up?" She froze, her face darkening as she stared at me. "Alex, do you really have to twist the knife like this?" Her expression changed in a flash, and for a second I thought I was watching a magic show. I collected myself and spoke slowly. "Sarah, Leo knows about us. He saw the photo in my album. Since you're getting married, let's just drop it, and please, don't come looking for me again." Her hands, hanging at her sides, clenched into fists, and then slowly relaxed. Her face tense, she turned and walked away. After that, I was busy preparing to go abroad and had no time to wallow in sadness. Occasionally, I'd run into Sarah at the hospital, and we would both just coldly pretend not to see each other. My colleagues complained more than once. "You two were classmates, for God's sake. How can she be so petty? Even if it wasn't you, it's not like she was guaranteed to get it." I would just smile and say nothing. Leo became even more ostentatious than before. He would praise Sarah to the heavens to anyone who would listen, never forgetting to flash his ring. I ran into him a few times in the cafeteria, and he would strut past me, deliberately bumping my shoulder. I found his childish tactics almost laughable. I thought I could make it to my departure date without any more drama, and finally put this draining relationship behind me. But then the hospital's research project submissions came up on the agenda, and I had to prepare my materials to deal with it. A week later, the list of project candidates was announced. Both my name and Sarah's were on it. The day the list came out, my department head, Dr. Patel, had a dinner meeting with a pharmaceutical rep, and he dragged me along. When I walked into the private room, I deeply regretted not asking who would be there. The hospital director was there. And so was Sarah. The pharma rep was already well on his way, and immediately raised his glass when he saw me. "I hear Dr. Mason is going abroad soon. This drink is for you. When you come back, you'll be the top cardiac surgeon in the country." Sarah's face soured. She gripped her wine glass so tightly her veins bulged. Just as I was about to take the glass, the director blocked it. "He can't drink. One glass and he's out. I'll take this one for him." I froze, unable to stop him, and could only sit down quietly. They chatted animatedly during the meal. I just ate, drank my juice, and felt like I was sitting on pins and needles. Halfway through, the pharma rep went to the restroom. The moment the door closed, Sarah, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly stood up. She raised a glass to the director, shooting a meaningful glance in my direction. "Since we have this opportunity, there's something I'm not sure if I should say." The director looked at her and put down his glass. "Hospital business?" Sarah paused. "Not entirely. After all, Dr. Mason and I were classmates for many years. I figured it would be better coming from me than from someone else." Now even Dr. Patel, who had been joking around, stopped smiling and looked at her. Sarah said, "Dr. Mason's surgical skills are excellent, but his research is a bit lacking. Some of his experimental data was handled sloppily. It's fine for a private review, but if it's submitted as a project proposal, any expert will see the flaws immediately." I stared at her, stunned. The certainty in her eyes made her seem like a complete stranger. The director and Dr. Patel both looked at me, their faces full of confusion. Sarah never met my gaze. "It would be better to withdraw Dr. Mason's project from consideration. He's going for overseas training anyway, so it's best he focuses his energy on that." Her eagerness to bring it up made me realize her true intention. This wasn't for my own good. If my research project was tanked and my work was found to be flawed, how could I shamelessly go for the overseas training? Killing two birds with one stone. No wonder Sarah was burning all her bridges. I stood up. Dr. Reed's reminder is very timely. I almost forgot. To ensure accuracy, I reran the data experiments a few more times. It's a perfect time to release the latest results. I'd love to hear everyone's feedback. Sarah followed me all the way to the parking lot. She grabbed my arm, her face grim, and pinned me against my car door. I was so angry I tried to kick her, but she didn't budge, her eyes simmering with rage. "You were holding out on me," she seethed. I had indeed run more tests after the initial submission. It was a habit I'd developed in med school. Data isn't static. It can change under different conditions. I just never thought it would come in handy like this. I looked at her. "I told you about my experiment's progress. I shared all my data with you, no reservations. You knew there were issues, but you never pointed them out. Sarah, which one of us is more despicable?" Dejected, she let go, then suddenly braced her hands on the roof of the car, taking a few deep breaths. "Alex, I know you hate me and you resent me. I understand all of it, but can you please not mess with my future?" She turned her head to look at me, her eyes full of sorrow. "Do you think it wasn't hard for me to give up so many years of a relationship? But I can't give up this opportunity." I suddenly remembered something she used to say in school. She said she cherished every opportunity because she was afraid there wouldn't be a next time. Losing control, she slammed her fist on the car roof several times, finally breaking down. "What the hell do you want from me?" The sudden kiss caught me completely off guard. Without thinking, I raised my hand and slapped her. "Sarah." Her shoulders slumped. She looked like a stray dog, utterly defeated. "Do you need me to beg you, Alex? If I call off the wedding right now and we get back together, will you give it up?" I had never seen Sarah so broken. She was a complete stranger, and it chilled me to the bone. "No," I told her, enunciating each word. I wasn't willing to get back together, and I wasn't willing to give up. She let out a heavy sigh, stood up straight, and stared at me, her eyes red. "Lately, I keep thinking about our time in med school. You'd wait for me no matter how late it was. You'd put your own experiments on hold to help with mine. Everyone said we were a perfect match. Even my parents said you were a good person. They've long seen you as their son-in-law. Me and him. My parents still can't accept it. They're still angry with me, asking me why I had to do this." She gave a bitter smile. "It's not that I don't want to get ahead, but reality is cruel. It doesn't matter how hard I work. I don't even get the same opportunities as you." She brought up when we started at the hospital. She chose a highly sought-after department, thinking she could make a name for herself. But those surgeries you performed were truly impeccable. Even I felt inadequate watching you. I always thought about when I could have my moment in the spotlight, to make you see how formidable I could be, but I never got the chance. Hadn't I also thought about the past? She was broke in school, but she never forgot to get me gifts for holidays. Even when her meal card was nearly empty, she would still take me out for late-night snacks. Looking at the person in front of me now, I just felt a wave of sorrow. "Sarah, I was never your competitor. In the past, all I wanted was your love. Now, you have nothing left to give me." The project proposal made it through the 3-day public review period without a hitch. A hospital-wide seminar was held afterward, during which the director spoke pointedly. "Some of our doctors are too focused on short-term gains. They haven't even sorted out their own affairs, yet they're busy trying to sabotage their colleagues. This hospital is not a battlefield. There's no room for so much scheming." He didn't look at Sarah, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw the person sitting in front of me lower her head. Dr. Patel nudged me and mouthed some words. She really messed with the wrong person. With the project submission finished, my trip abroad was back on schedule. I applied for a few days of annual leave to get some rest. That day, after much persuasion, I finally agreed to have my dad over for dinner. I was planning to order takeout, but he showed up with armfuls of groceries, incredibly excited. I had no choice but to clear out the kitchen for him to work his magic. I watched him wash and chop, announcing he was going to make us hot pot. Just as I placed the pot on the dining table, there was a commotion at the door. My dad didn't even look up, busy slicing meat. "That's probably the seafood I ordered. Son, go get the door." I steeled myself and went to open it. Standing outside were Sarah and her parents. The moment they saw me, her parents broke into wide smiles and walked right in. "Alex, we were in the area for a doctor's appointment. No other reason. Just thought we'd stop by and see you." I was stuck, not sure whether to block them or let them in, when my dad walked out of the kitchen. Sarah froze. Director." It was the most awkward hot pot I've ever had. Sarah's parents sat ramrod straight. Ever since they found out the director was my dad, Director Mason, they acted like parents at a teacher conference. They smiled obsequiously at me. "How come you never mentioned it? If you'd told us earlier, we would have paid a formal visit." I just smiled, not wanting to explain much. My dad, however, was a man of the world and could handle any conversation. I bear some responsibility for his mother's passing, and my son has always held a bit of a grudge against me. He doesn't usually like to deal with me. It took a lot of convincing just to get him to agree to have dinner together. Years ago, there were complications with my mom's surgery, and she developed a severe infection during her recovery. Meanwhile, my dad was busy with his mistress. Although he became deeply remorseful in his old age and cut ties with all those women, I could never get over it. I had never told anyone about this. Sarah clearly misunderstood the situation. She had been cold since she walked in, but now she suddenly spoke up. "Alex was probably trying to avoid any appearance of favoritism. Imagine if people found out." I glanced at her. My dad just chuckled and continued. "My son gets that from me. He's stubborn and relies on himself for everything. When I saw his application, I was surprised. He was dead set against coming here at the time." Sarah's lips tightened into a pout, her brow furrowed. I had refused, but she had insisted on submitting my application for me. She'd said that doctors are too busy for dates, and if we were in the same hospital, at least we would see each other all the time. She was probably regretting it with every fiber of her being now. Sarah's parents said, "The two kids were classmates, and they probably wanted to bring up our relationship, but stopped short, changing the subject. And colleagues, we hope you'll look after them in the future." My dad smiled. "Isn't Dr. Reed getting married soon? I heard she's marrying a young assistant." I had to admire him. He really knew how to twist the knife. My dad patted my hand, which was resting on the table. "My son is going abroad soon, so he probably won't be able to make the wedding, but I could certainly serve as the officiant." Sarah's face went pale, but she still managed to smile and raise her glass. "Well, thank you in advance, Director. I was just wondering how to ask you." The dinner felt like a trap. When it was finally time to clear the dishes, Sarah rolled up her sleeves and said, "I'll get it." She expertly gathered the plates and went into the kitchen. Her parents exchanged a look, then sat up straight again to have tea with my dad. I pushed open the kitchen door. Sarah was staring blankly at the sink full of dishes. She snapped out of it when she saw me. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" I leaned against the counter. "There was nothing to say." She bit her lip and looked at me. "If you had told me sooner, maybe we wouldn't have ended up like this." I laughed. "Sarah, are you telling me now that if my father were the director, you wouldn't have cheated on me? Or are you just regretting that you missed out on this opportunity?" She was silent for a moment. "I know you look down on me now." "Spit it out. Why did you suddenly show up?" I asked. Don't tell me you wanted your parents to be your lobbyists, to convince me to give up the overseas training program. A flash of embarrassment crossed her face. No. They really were here for a doctor's appointment. And they felt they should come see you because I was the one who wronged you in this. And I wanted to see you too. I laughed. See what? To see if I'd still want you? To see if I'd suddenly have a change of heart? She was silent for a moment, her hands braced on the sink. Alex, do you know what I hate most about you? How aggressive you are. She gave what looked like a bitter smile. But that's exactly what I loved about you back then. You were braver than me. I was speechless. When she loved me, my defining trait was bravery. Now that she didn't, it was aggression. I had asked her once why she liked me. She thought for a moment and replied, "Watching you argue your point with the professor, I wanted to be brave for once, too, to fight for myself." I was just a moment of courage in her otherwise cautious life. 7 years later, she chose to leave without a second thought. She turned on the faucet and began to wash the dishes, her movements slow. She washed them one by one, letting them drain before putting them in the cabinet. As she wiped the counter, her hand paused. A single tear fell. It splattered on the surface. She stared at it, and then another one fell. She spoke slowly, her voice thick with unshed tears. "I remember a time when I wouldn't even let you do things like wash dishes or vegetables. Those hands of yours weren't meant for this kind of work. Back then, I really thought I could protect you for the rest of our lives." I straightened up and pulled open the sliding kitchen door. I looked back at her one last time. "Sarah, maybe we should have broken up the moment we left med school. Everything after that was just you waiting for a better opportunity to come along. The sky's the limit for you now. I won't wish you happiness." As her parents were shown out, they bowed and scraped, showering my dad with compliments. They didn't notice Sarah's red-rimmed eyes or her lowered head. I closed the door and took a deep breath. "Are you really going to be their officiant?" My dad nodded solemnly. "Don't try to stop me." A week later, I was at the Research Institute overseas, having just finished the welcome dinner. Because of the time difference, it was broad daylight there when my dad video called me. It was a lively wedding scene, bustling with guests. My dad held up his phone to give me a tour of the venue. There was an arched floral gateway and a giant heart-shaped flower arrangement standing next to the couple's wedding portrait. The camera flashed past, and I thought I saw a beaming Leo. "Hang up," I said. "I'm going to bed." But then a voice cut in, and Sarah appeared on screen, looking reserved. She had come to ask my dad to sit in the front row. Our eyes met awkwardly. She froze, then managed a wistful smile. "Alex, is everything going well?" I smiled back. "It's great." She stared at me, the roar of the crowd in the background. She had actually come to find me one more time before I left. Standing outside my door, she had asked carefully if she could see me off. "There's no need, Sarah. Our paths have long since diverged. There's no reason for them to cross again." That was only a few days ago, but seeing her now felt like looking across 1,000 mountains. My dad patted her shoulder and said, "Don't just stand there. It's almost time." Sarah nodded and walked away, her shoulders slumped, her steps heavy. But my dad didn't hang up. He just chuckled and said he was bored and wanted me to talk to him. I couldn't argue, so I just set the phone on the table and went to wash some fruit. Soon, the wedding march began. A new couple was about to be joined. I came back with a bowl of fruit and resignedly watched the ceremony while I ate. My dad went up on stage. The camera could only capture his chin. He gave a few generic, polite remarks, then suddenly changed his tune. "You know, This young man, Leo, he didn't actually pass his initial assessment when he first came to the hospital. But his benefactor, one of our hospital's silent partners, begged and pleaded to give him a spot. Benefactor and backer. How delightful. The peach I was eating paused mid-air. My dad chuckled. We couldn't put him in any important roles, of course. We specifically instructed that he was not to handle patients, medication, or needles. His backer is quite fond of him, telling me to just think of it as the hospital sponsoring a decorative member of staff. Suddenly, I really wanted to see Sarah's face. There had been rumors at the hospital about a silent partner who wasn't exactly proper, who liked to keep young men around. Everyone treated it as a joke. When they ran into the man at the hospital, they never let on, maintaining a respectful facade. But my dad on stage was getting more and more into it. This young man is quite capable, though. He managed to snag our hospital's youngest and most promising female surgeon. Now, I can finally rest easy. And with that, I wish the newlyweds a happy marriage and a lifetime of devotion. He might as well have had HR come on stage and tell Leo he was being laid off. My dad walked off the stage, his steps light, his face flushed from holding back laughter. I heard him mutter as he walked. To think he'd dare to bully my son. The absolute nerve. I suddenly wanted to laugh, but my eyes were getting hot. He adjusted the phone's camera, and I saw the MC on stage, already prompting them several times. Will the bride and groom please come to the stage? But Sarah stood motionless, her fists clenched, her face ashen. Beside her, Leo's eyes were red. He kept shaking her arm, but he couldn't move her an inch. Sarah's parents came forward, looking embarrassed, seemingly trying to persuade her. After a long while, she looked up, her lips pressed into a thin line. I knew that look. Whenever she was about to cry, she would tilt her head back to force the tears down. As if burning her last bridge, she grabbed Leo's hand and stormed toward the stage. She moved so fast that Leo stumbled and staggered behind her. To the sound of the music, the two of them walked onto the stage, one with a grim face, the other with eyes full of panic. It was the most interesting wedding I'd ever seen. The MC cleared his throat, plastered on a professional smile, and asked Sarah, "Is our bride a little nervous? Maybe we can have the groom show some affection. Give us a little PDA." Leo, in his suit, forced a smile. He was about to lean his head on Sarah's chest when she shoved him away with disgust. He stumbled back 2 steps, almost falling. All the pent-up emotion finally burst. Leo started bawling. "Sarah, you can't regret this. We already have the marriage license." Sarah shot him a cold look and then burst out laughing. "Perfect. Then this is our divorce ceremony." Leo's face turned white as a sheet. His crying stopped abruptly as he stared at her in disbelief. Sarah's gaze seemed to shift toward my dad. "I regret it." A breeze brushed her cheek. Her smile was tinged with tears. The scene devolved into chaos. Leo's father rushed onto the stage, grabbed Sarah by the collar, and scratched her face. The sound of crying and cursing set against the wedding march was darkly comedic. Many guests took out their phones and started recording with great interest. The MC, who had probably never encountered such a scene, awkwardly tried to intervene, but eventually gave up. A sudden flash of lightning, and a downpour began. The crowd below scattered like birds, while the brawl on stage continued. "Damn, this rain is too heavy," my dad said, and hastily hung up. I stared at the black screen for a few seconds, then couldn't help but laugh out loud. After that, I didn't hear any news about either of them for a long time. Work at the research institute was demanding. I spun like a top every day, often feeling like I was back in med school. About half a year later, my department head, Dr. Patel, called with a cheerful update. After a long preamble of asking how I was, he finally gave in to his gossipy nature. "You remember Sarah Reed, right? Your old classmate?" I grunted in acknowledgement, turning off the music on my computer. It happened not long after that wedding, but their divorce dragged on for a long time. It only just got finalized. The chief sighed, saying that Sarah's career was basically over. To get the divorce, she used every trick in the book, secret recordings, stalking. She finally managed to catch Leo in a compromising situation with that old man. But her career is done for. She probably couldn't focus, misdiagnosed a patient, and the family protested at the hospital entrance with banners for over a month. This morning I saw her packing up her things, looking completely defeated. She has to pay the patient's medical expenses, which is a huge sum. I felt a pang of sorrow. Despite the ugliness between us, she was supposed to have a brilliant future. I suddenly remembered a text from an unknown number a few months ago. If people have drifted apart in this world, does it mean they'll never meet again? I didn't reply. I just deleted it. 2 years later, my exchange program ended. After my plane landed, I went home first. The doorway was piled high with packages of all sizes. I casually tore one open. It was a shattered jigsaw puzzle. I could vaguely make out that it was a photo of me and Sarah. A small card was attached, reading, "My love, happy birthday." I realized all these packages must have been from her. Gifts, for every holiday over the years. I couldn't even remember when she had stopped having time to prepare these things for me. It seemed to start after that hospital interview, when she began to subtly distance herself from our relationship. The package on top had a recent date, from just a few days ago. It was a huge box. I opened it. Inside was a custom-tailored suit. Looking closely, I recognized it as the one I had thrown in the trash. The attached card had a single line of text. "I'm not as resolute as you thought, and now not as brave as I thought." I don't know what state of mind she was in when she went back to retrieve that suit. At the time, she was planning her wedding to Leo. The thought of her divided heart made the lump in my throat even worse. In the end, she wasn't worthy. In the end, I had loved the wrong person. I found a junk collector and had him haul everything away. "You don't want any of this? Looks like you haven't even opened most of it," he said, both surprised and delighted as he looked over the pile of boxes. I shook my head. "Don't want it. It's just trash to me." "Well, if you have any more trash like this in the future, just give me a call." After I returned to work at the hospital, I heard more news about Sarah. A colleague said they saw her looking for jobs everywhere, but hospitals all share information, and no one dared to hire her. "She asked about you the other day. I told her you were back and doing great." I just smiled and closed my phone. "I need to change my number. I'm getting way too much spam." A few seconds ago, a message from Sarah had landed in my junk folder. Sometimes something has to disappear to prove its value. I imagined her sweating, clutching her resume after another rejection, wistfully typing out that line. I suddenly laughed out loud. A few more years passed. I was at a crosswalk with a takeout sandwich when I saw Leo. He was carrying several bags, hurrying to catch up with a heavily pregnant woman who was much older than him. The disheveled woman was picking her teeth as she walked, impatiently turning back to urge him on. As he passed me, he shot me a quick glance, then immediately looked away. A car sped past, grazing him. I instinctively reached out and pulled him back. He looked at me, still shaken, and mumbled, Thank you, Dr. Mason." The woman had already started cursing. Don't you have fucking eyes? Why couldn't it have run you over, you useless piece of shit, and the bastard in your belly, too?" He lowered his head miserably and hurried after her. I looked at the bags scattered on the ground. Various discounted, near-expiration food containers had spilled out, a perfect metaphor for their lives now. A gentle breeze blew past, carrying the sweet scent of pear blossoms. The clouds in the sky drifted and scattered. You can't turn back time.